Thank you. Okay. We are going to call this meeting to order. Now it is 6:34 p.m. on March 17th, and this is a meeting of the City of Portland's Police Accountability Commission. Before they start the Spanish language interpreter, we're gonna give the information. I mean, if you can start, I'm gonna, please, if you can tell how to access and use. Subject to the city administrative code and conducted under, sorry, my computer. Oh. Conducted under the provisions of Oregon Public Meetings Law, Zoom chat function, chat transcript will be included in meeting records for this meeting. Zoom questions and answer function for questions only, no comment. Not all questions will be answered. If answered, both questions and responses will be included in meeting records for this meeting. Or other relevant questions will be included in agenda planning for future meetings of the PAC. Thank you.
Okay. Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas noches, bienvenidos a todos. Estamos aquí precisamente con esto de la responsabilidad de la policía en cuestión de logística y anuncios. Esta conversación será grabada y va a estar precisamente todos los panelistas conversando. Si ustedes necesitan interpretación en español, en la parte de abajo de su pantalla, van a encontrar el botón donde dice un globo terráqueo y el idioma español. Por si tienen ustedes ganas de escuchar esa conversación, toda va a ser simultánea con interpretación en español. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you. The city also offers ASL interpretation, which is being provided by Ruth and Mary. You can pin the video feed is that's helpful to you. Finally, the closed captioning is turned on in Zoom as another means for assistance. But please note that this is an automatic captioning services and it is not always accurate. The city supports access to meetings of the Police Accountability Commission and can provide other language support as well. Please email in advance of future public meetings, either as a response to a public meeting notice or directly to policeaccountability@portlandoregon.gov to ask for other access assistance, including interpretation into other languages. This meeting is public meeting subject to City of Portland Administrative Code and Oregon State Law and is being recorded. For this meeting, the chat function, I already talked about it, the questions. We like to clear that not all questions will be answered during the meeting. And we already say that to access this feature, just click on the questions and answer icon in the middle of the screen. Okay, slide 3, and I will pass it to Christine. I forgot to say, you already know, but I'm Victoria Lara. I will be one of the facilitators, and I will pass it to the other facilitator, Christine Moses. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's wonderful to be here this evening. I like to offer a land acknowledgement, my personal land acknowledgement. And the purpose of my land acknowledgement is to center the traditional Native inhabitants of the land upon which we live. I want to respectfully acknowledge the Chinook, the Clackamas, and the Multnomah. The Clackamas and the Multnomah being two tribal nations who are missing from this map, who are now part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde because of the genocide that occurred in the creation of this country. I honor those who have stewarded this land through the generations. I pay my personal respects to their elders, both past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Then the commission begin meeting in December. It is an organizational phase of work now, which is expected to go through March. After the full commission determines its scope and agenda and scope later in March, the commission will move into the next phase of work and develop the parameters for the new police accountability system before presenting that to the City Council in 2023 for their consideration and approval. Today's meeting's primary objective is discussion, public comment, and the approval of the draft values. There are 2 other meetings scheduled the rest of this month to approve draft bylaws, agenda, scope, and community engagement framework. And I can pass this to Samir, please.
Yes, so excuse me. This is the project plan for the organizational phase for the Police Accountability Commission. It's not set in stone and it's not the specific agendas. It's designed for the public to give a broad understanding of the progress of the commission. Today's meeting is in the upper right corner under the word March, blue box highlighted in yellow, as is the meeting on the 24th and 31st. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Samir. Okay. We're just gonna review our community agreements, our meeting agreements, and I'm gonna read it and say, keep the needs and concerns of the local community and the larger region at the forefront of the work. Keep focus on the objectives of the meetings and individual agenda items. Utilize facilitators to note additional topics for discussion. Arrive on time and be prepared to the best of your ability. Let the group know if you are unable to attend a meeting. Keep multitasking to a minimum. Contribute to the overall success of the group by finding ways to participate that best meets your needs. Treat each other with respect and be supportive of each other. Keep in mind that everyone has their own truth. Listen without agenda and refrain from interruptions. Be polite, courteous, and thoughtful. Assume good intentions from our college and collaborators. Challenge ideas rather than individuals. Approach different opinions with curiosity. Seek to understand. Use I statements. Affirm other speakers. Do not use violent words. Instead, say something positive about the previous speaker and simply add your own thoughts. Respect privacy. Everything shared in confidence needs to be kept in confidence. Honor the decisions of the group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Can I see thumbs up for the agreements, pretty please, from everyone? Beautiful. Thank you so very much.
And Christine, thank you. And before we go to we're gonna have the co-chairs review of today's meeting's purpose.
Beautiful.
If one of the co-chairs wants to review it.
Sure. Today we're going to be doing the equity training. That's going to be the first thing on our list. Christine has prepared a training for us today. And it lays the groundwork for the commission's work. We'll also be doing the PAC draft values. Myself and Angie will be working with that. They will be presented on, sorry, I'm trying to read this. My pictures are in the way. On March 3rd, we'll be presented at March 3rd meeting and developed and added by our members for suggestions, collected and organized by the co-chairs. Today's meeting, the documents will be adapted and refined Public comment will be taken and the commission will have the opportunity to approve them. And for our discussion, we're going to also discuss agenda and scope. This is still a draft. We're still working on a final draft to submit you all, but the commission will continue to discuss the scope and agenda on a document, and we will determine what we will come up with as a draft. I'm sorry, there's on there twice. So for discussion also, we have the agenda and scope. That's what I'm saying. We have it on the type. Subcommittees will decide on referring the draft, the bylaws, and all the changes to the subcommittees. I'm sorry.
This is an old slide. Apologies.
I know. I think it's my pictures of everybody getting in front of everything. All the changes will be submitted to the committee and has made being incorporated into the text. To the full PAC. Sorry, to the full PAC for consideration of March 17th and 24th and 31st. And the reason why we have March 17th, 24th and 31st is because it just depends on when we're finalized. So we know that it may be the 24th or the 31st. Since we are here on the 17th, we will be discussing it today, and that will be continued in the next couple meetings. Okay.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you very much for reviewing the agenda of today's meeting and the purpose. And I will pass it to Christine. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. It's wonderful again to be here today. Part of our work in order to be able to do things differently is to think about things differently. So today we're going to begin to look at different terms and definitions. We are not going to have time to discuss them. That will be at our next equity training. But we are going to begin to start talking about culture and how culture works. So it is going to be some heavy content. I invite you to breathe, place your hand on your chest and on your stomach if you need to center yourself, count to 10. Always good to stop and take a pause in between wanting to say something and saying something. Listen to understand right now and lean into discomfort. If you feel discomfort in your body, in your chest, in your throat, if your ears get red, this is a beautiful place of understanding that here's an opportunity to learn. Breathing is critical. This is a really important thing. So I want us to start with the levels of culture. There are multiple levels of culture. There's surface level culture. This work is by Zaretta Hammond in her work with culturally sustaining pedagogy in the brain. So she comes at this from an education perspective, where hairstyles and holidays and stories are really the surface culture, the things that you see, games, drama, how people are dressed, the food they eat. Shallow culture, that next level down, are the unspoken rules of behavior. They're high emotional and high impact and rely on trust. So do I use eye contact or not? In some cultures, it is really highly valued. In dominant American culture, eye contact is highly valued. But in some other cultures, to actually look at someone in their eyes is to be confrontational. And so we need to take those things into consideration when we're working cross-culturally. Concepts around time. What is being on time? In some cultures, 15 minutes late is on time. In other cultures, 5 minutes early is on time. Time is fluid. It's a social construct. just like race, just like gender, just like money. These are all socially constructed ways of being. And then we get into the deeper culture, the worldviews, how decisions get made, spirituality, and the relationships that we have with nature and animals, our notions of fairness. In the American culture, notions of fairness are based inside the individual and not necessarily in a collective approach to that. And so we can have many different layers of our inability to communicate because we have different ideas around time, around behavior, what is normal, right? And in America, normal is white dominant culture. So I would invite us in again to continue on our definitions. And I would love to have people volunteer to read these definitions for us. Pretty please.
Monica, you raise your hand, you can start.
Thank you.
Race, a socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people. Rooted in the debunked science of eugenics, there is no biological difference between races. Refers to the color of one's skin. Race is weaponized and used as a tool of the divide and conquer strategy of white landowners in the founding colonies.
Thank you so much. What is one thing that you took from that definition?
One thing that I took from this definition
That possibly resonated with you?
It's pretty straightforward. Definitely, I mean, it speaks truth to me.
Beautiful, thank you. Monica, can you popcorn over to the next person who will read for us? Can you pick that next person for us, pretty please?
Sure. CMOB?
Yes. So reading racism. The marginalization and or oppression of people of color based on a socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people. Racism occurs at the internal, interpersonal, institutional, and structural levels, resulting in systemic racism. Racism equals race plus prejudice, or I'm sorry, race prejudice plus social and institutional power. Racism equals a system of advantage based on race. Racism equals a system of oppression based on race. Racism equals a white supremacy fragility system.
What resonates with you, Sima?
Pardon me?
What resonates with you in that definition?
White supremacy equals a white, or racism equals a white supremacy fragility system.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's white supremacy, but then there's also the aspect of white fragility, which is often underestimated and underlooked.
Yeah, and helps keep it in place. Beautiful, thank you. Who's next? Who are you going to ask to read the next slide?
I will ask Debbie.
Thank you.
Definitions: race, social construct based on the amount of melanin in your skin. There is no biological difference between races. Ethnicity, a state describing the culture, heritage, and ancestry of a person. Nationality, based on your passport, the legal identity which is conferred only to a person who is born in within. The words don't sound quite right.
They are. I'm sorry.
Okay, born in within the country. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So within this page, do these definitions help suss out the differences between these three terms?
Yes, they do. Yeah, no, I think that's very helpful to see the distinction among the three.
Beautiful. Does anyone have any questions regarding these definitions that we've looked at so far? Helpful? Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I'll continue sharing. So what helps me do this work is to understand the levels of white supremacy culture in this country at this time. We're not talking about anywhere else. We're talking about here and now. If we see this as, concentric circles or cylinders and ways of how things reinforce each other, we can see the culture, the cultural norms and values, and how whiteness is the norm. If you are not white, you are not normal. I've had people say, I just had a normal childhood. Yes, and that person was white and they had a normal childhood. Absolutely, and that's beautiful. But if I'm not that person, I am biracial, I'm Black and white, I did not have a normal childhood. And that does bring up all sorts of oppression in our culture because we are judged differently based on our skin colors. Our systems of laws and the government agencies that enforce these laws also are informed by our culture that says white is superior, white behavior, dominant culture is superior. And so these systems help keep this culture in place. Then we move down a level into institutional areas, and that is the PAC. If the PAC subscribes to the dominant culture organizing principles, you will produce the same things as in the past. And so that's why it's so important that we're centering other people's voices who have not been at the decision-making table. And that's why it's critical to do the outreach in so many different ways. And most importantly in all of this is us doing our individual work. I will speak from my perspective. I will use I statements. I have been on a journey of decolonizing my own thinking. I have been on a journey of decolonizing and acknowledging my privilege as having white parents and my anti-Blackness. And so I am on my equity journey. I take full responsibility for microaggressions that I have caused in the past. And I am working diligently every single day of my life to decolonize my thinking. This is the invitation that I am giving to you, is that we will be getting books shortly and we will be on this journey of decolonizing ourselves. I'm giving you this gestalt, this idea of how racism works in our country at this time. How does this resonate with you? Yes, Monica.
Well, what you just said there at the end is powerful in that I have had struggles myself about my participation in the PAC and how, there are so many restrictions and rules and how we do things and all this structure that actually is guiding the decisions we're making. And I fear that it is producing exactly the same thing that we're trying to not do, right? And so that has been something that I have been constantly thinking about since we started doing this.
We have to be vigilant. Thank you so much for that, Monica. We have to be vigilant. Racism is like the people mover at the airport. It just keeps going. And if you have to walk the other way, you have to be anti-racist for racism to stop. You have to go the other way. And so that is beautiful that you're keeping that vigilance on, are we doing it the same way again? And so I appreciate that. And that's what I'm asking us to do, so we end up in a different place. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you for that observation. We're going to keep going. Again, we're going to have a deeper conversation the next time we come together. Who wants to step into this definition, pretty please?
Connie, you raise your hand. Go ahead.
Yes, whiteness, the divide and conquer strategy based on the color of one's skin, created in 1681 after Bacon's rebellion to quash the ability of indentured servants and lower class white communities to unite with free and enslaved Blacks against landowners. White privilege, inherited and unearned societal advantages, access, and opportunities that benefit people identified as white.
Now, breathe deeply. And that is these two definitions can be a possible place of being triggered if you are a white person. Nowhere in here does it say white people are evil. Nowhere in here. What it's saying is our history is a racialized project. The United States is a racialized project. The founding of our country is based on oppression of other groups of people. And that white privilege is unearned. And so you don't have to feel guilt and shame and blame. You do not need to feel those, but you may feel them. And that's when your breathing comes in, and that's when deep conversation comes in. And that's where you're beginning to decolonize yourself, is when you feel that shame and blame and guilt. It's like, but really it's okay. You can lean into it. So I'm going to read this definition. White supremacy, the belief that white people are superior to those of all other races, especially the Black race, and therefore should dominate society. The idea or ideology that white people and the ideas, thoughts, and beliefs and actions of white people are superior to people of color and their ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and actions. While most people associate white supremacy with extremist groups like the KKK and neo-Nazis, white supremacy is ever present in our institutional and cultural assumptions that assign value, morality, goodness, and humanity to the white group, while casting people in communities of color as worthless, worthless, immoral, bad, and inhuman, and undeserving. Drawing from race theory, the term white supremacy also refers to a political and social economic system where white people enjoy structural advantages and rights that other racial and ethnic groups do not, both at a collective and individual level. And so again, here is our foundational forming of our country. We understand what the words mean. We don't have to feel shame and blame and guilt. We are identifying the structural, systemic, cultural, and individual manifestations of white supremacy culture. And we are still alive. We have not exploded. We can have these conversations because we bring grace and compassion and love and forgiveness into the room. Thoughts about this? Is this clarifying? How so? Yes, Sophia.
I like this definition because it doesn't, it leaves it very open to what's white supremacy is. And I like the pointing out that it's not just extremist groups. It's the way people think, the way people were raised, what they find as norms are, white supremacist norms, but they don't think of them that way because that was their belief, that was the way they were raised, and they don't think anything of it. And I think inherently that's part of the issue we have in our society, is that because you were raised and brought to believe and think a certain way, that it's the right way, and you can't think of it any other way. And that puts you in a position, and it's very hard to think that you're a white supremacist when you just feel like that was what we were talking about before, normal, right? A normal for you is not a normal for someone else. And we need to question that normalcy, right? Whether it is, we all have our own normalcies when we were growing up, and then you leave your home and you see that that may have not been normal with somebody else's family or how society thinks of it. So, I could see some people being very shocked in a way that they might be a white supremacist, just like we're shocked when we leave home and we realize that that's not the norm for everybody else, what we did in our house. So, that shock is a reality, and it's very hard to acknowledge at times, even if it's not white supremacy. Whatever our values were that are not the culture of the others or most others, we are quite shocked about that. So I just want to say that, feeling that shock that you might be something that you didn't realize you were, doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that that was the way you were raised, and now you have to take some time to relook at that and rethink about what it is that you know and what it is that is actually present, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hard part, coming to that realization and trying to figure out how to deal with that and how to change that that structure that you were raised with. It's a direct conflict to what you were raised to believe. So I like that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And part of this is, so we have, again, a common language, right? We're doing definitions. We're trying to create a common language so we can call each other in. So we're not calling each other out. We want to build this container. That's why the agreements are so critical, is because we want to be able to build this container and say, hey, that didn't land right. Can we think about this way? Can we invite each other into having these conversations so we don't create a toxic environment, so we don't feel called out, but we feel called in to continue to learn called in to support each other in our learning, in our compassion, in our growth, so we can create something different. Charlie, yes.
So, Christine, I do have something to say, but I don't know if this is the right, where to jump in on this.
2 minutes and I will be done. And then I'm going to hand the floor to you.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Is that okay, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay, 2 minutes. I just want 2 more slides up that we're going to be really brief about, and then I'm going to hand the floor to you. So I had you read the document by Tema Okun, White Supremacy Culture Characteristics. We could spend a year unpacking these, and we might actually do that. But I just want you to know that it is a really dense, beautiful document that gave me the ability to understand what I am trying to interrupt, right? When I'm trying to interrupt the usual status quo, these are the things that I'm trying to interrupt. That's why this work has been so meaningful to me, to help me be an equity trainer to bring this forward. We will get into this document more. I just want you to know that we'll come back to it over and over again. And then I just wanted to bring this up. So Charlie, I would like to give you the floor for the next 4 minutes, if that's all right, or,
Sure. I just have been really struggling as well with the way things are unfolding. And this is not my area of expertise at all. And so I don't know where this belongs, what I want to read to you, because it feels like in so many different places, but I can't, I'm losing focus because it's weighing heavy on me. And I need to share it with you. And it's just like, also it's so important that in order to remain on the Police Accountability Commission, I need to, I must be able to be true to my heart and my principles as an Indigenous woman and uphold my promise to be the voice of those most impacted by lack of police accountability. And this also plays into the values. I need to share what I learned from my life experience and intuition, a life riddled with racial and social injustices. I don't have academia language. I have street smarts and I have street language. And so I always kind of cringe when we have to agree to that. I forget what you call it, but I'm like real. Being polite, courteous, and thoughtful often excludes and keeps the ugly, uncomfortable truths of those life experiences hidden and dismisses emotional communication, often a way for white society to control the narrative and prioritize their ears' comforts, and recreates and reinforces white supremacist motivations. There is no protection from with my personal life, nor from societal's worst examples of white supremacist institutions and systems, including child services and the injustice system. The failures of this country, state, and city is steeped in racism. So anti-racism, personal anti-racist self-inventories must be a priority every step of the way by the members of this commission in order to hold police accountable to provide anti-racist policing. Over 82% of Portlanders voted for police accountability, so we must never forget that. Last month, my friend and comrade T-Rex was murdered by white supremacy. As we prepared to protect the JFK protesters, I miss her. She is a fierce, longtime advocate for justice for all marginalized folks, including Black Lives Matters, Land Back, Abolish ICE, and other injustices, and particularly on that night, February 19th. She was out there demanding for police accountability. We all were. In the case of Patrick Kimmons, shot 9 times in the back, hands in the air, not to minimize all the other deaths at the hands of white supremacy, disproportionately BIPOC, but her courage in the face of white supremacy, commitment and follow through is an anti-racist action I'm forever grateful for, and need to always remember those who are paying the ultimate price due to the lack of police accountability will forever keep me motivated to fight for this for the right to simply be treated with equality, equity, and with a humane heart. Although I believe my individual police, that many individual police generally believe they are joining an institution to protect and serve, the best of intentions cannot compete with this systemic force and a system led by a mayor and police commissioner who has characterized protesters in the worst light. And after this devastating shooting by a white supremacist, all Mayor Wheeler could say is that the problem is guns. No, Ted, the problem is white supremacy, and your unending support of it. I see this commission as an anti-racist action to not only hold police accountable for the brutality and deaths of marginalized Portlanders, but this action also on some level provides some minute reparation to past injustices when our goals are met, and will prevent future injustices through harm reduction. Additional police, as Mayor Wheeler has asked for, is white supremacy, not a solution, and keeps us in constant warning, triggering trauma, which perpetuates further fear, responses to police escalation tactics. How about over-resourcing instead of over-policing? When people's needs are met, the police aren't needed. Always ask, how is what we do on this commission anti-racist, and how does it truly center marginalized folks and hold police accountable? I just could not hold that in any longer and remain here. Thank you. I miss you, T.
Thank you so very much, Charlie. Victoria, may we go to break and
Yes,
come back?
yes, let's go to break and have a space to also to reflect on this. Let me see. It's
I'm back.
7:16. We can go and come back at 7:21, 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Before we continue with the agenda, because the next topic in the agenda is to review the values, I wanna say thank you, Charlie, for your very courageous reflection. Thank you for being vulnerable. And I personally believe that there is a lot of things that build community. Sharing the pain is one of them. This is a very sad example of white supremacists, and white supremacists affect us all, especially people of color. But because we are all connected and we are all a one community, it affects us and hurt us all. And I believe that what you share with us, it will definitely inspire and guide us and guide all the commissioners for the next vital and essential conversation. Again, thank you. And I personally want to share with you that my son and I, we went to the park and we stayed there. My son is much darker than me, and for me, I always afraid of him. And we share your pain, and we were there with you. Thank you very much for being so courageous. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, with this, and as I believe this will be good way to send us to the next discussion. And for the next discussion, I'm gonna ask the draft values I'm gonna ask Sophia. Oh, and sorry, I have to read this. It's for the discussions, remember, be brief. Anyone can speak multiple times, but take no more than 1 minute each time you speak. Raise hands on Zoom and allow the facilitator to call on people in a way that promotes conversation, keeps things moving, and allows everyone to speak. Be constructive. Look forward and discuss how to make the subcommittee's work more successful and the future on each question. And like always, I share with you, if I see that there's a couple people that hasn't been participating, I may call, and of course you can pass before giving the word to somebody that already spoke. Okay, with this, I will pass it to Sophia. I think Sophia is in charge of this discussion.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And thank you so much for your comments. I want to also just show how my heart goes out to you, Charlie, for your loss and the loss of all of us. We all suffered a loss there, and all the pain that you were willing to express to us. And I want you to know, just personally, sharing your experiences does not mean you're not being polite. I don't know what you were kind of alluding to, but I wanted to make clear that being polite does not mean that you say things that people want to hear. Politeness doesn't necessarily mean you like what someone says, or you agree to it. So I hope we are all able to understand that. Expressing our feelings in a way that's polite doesn't mean that we cannot express how we feel about something. So I also want to segue into a discussion. I think it was Monica that she was speaking earlier about the commission and what our view is of a commission, our commission, as commissioners. We have, and we all know this, but I want to reiterate that we all have a very special position here. We're all chosen because we have value to add to the commission. And not to think about the other commissions and organizations as templates for ourselves, to be very open-minded about what we want this commission to be and what the whole goal was for this commission. It was to be different, not to be the same as others. And that goes outside of some of the norms and some of the comfort zones for each and every one of us. Trying something new, stepping out of that box is something that is difficult and is scary at times, but I believe that we have all the resources to build this commission from the ground up that will be strong. Unlike some of the other commissions, we have this opportunity to take the time and really hash out our foundation. And it is extremely important this phase to hash that out in a very constructive way, in a very open-minded way. Some of the line and staff type information that we've gotten from other experiences, the hierarchical mechanisms that we're used to. We don't have to do that. And I encourage each of us to have a broad and open mind and vision as we discuss our values and goals. What do we really want to do? What is the purpose of this commission? Who are we working for? And that we are no longer those folks on the outside beating on the door, trying to make a difference and no one is hearing us. We are those people. We don't have to fight each other. We are all working towards the same goal. And I know we've all had our experiences, good and bad, but I will ask that you just consider not letting those things dictate how we do our business, how we conduct ourselves with each other. I will just talk about a NPR story about the commissions, city commissioners and the mayor's office in Silverton. I heard that today, how there's so much backbiting and fighting amongst themselves that they can't get anything done. And I am really urging this commission as individuals to go through hell and high water to make sure that doesn't become what we are. I really would just like to encourage each of us to take whatever it is that we need to do to make sure that we work as one group. I am all for consensus because voting in a lot of ways is a way to cop out of expressing yourselves as to what you want, to figuring out how to say it. And there's no issue that we can't get through in consensus if we are all open to listening, compromising, and looking at and focusing on the goal that we have ahead of us, not on each other. Our disagreements, there are going to be disagreements. We are people. But do not let those disagreements destroy the opportunity that we have to do something, to be an example, not just for the city of Portland, but for the whole United States and the police accountability. So that's my thought process. I wanted to express that because I have been on a lot of the meetings with the different commissions and I hear a lot about what other people did. And I want us to take the good parts if they are appropriate for us. They may not be appropriate for our group. And that is something for us all to discuss. And I am open to anybody who has anything to say, whether it's against me or whatever it might be, because that I look at as an opportunity for us to do better. I was a commander and I had my challenges as a very young person who was supervising and commanding people who were 20 years older than me, thinking that I didn't have the abilities to do the job. And in the battalion I was in, being a Black female, as a commander, I wasn't valued very much. Men were valued, definitely not women and definitely not Black women. So when it came to assignments for commands, I called it, they gave me the misfit command, which was the command that they felt these people were valueless. And they thought, well, we'll just give her that group because they're not worth anything and neither is she. That's just my thought. I didn't hear anyone say that, but that was the way I felt. And when I got that group, I realized it doesn't matter. Every last person had value and contributions to the team. And I'm going to tell you, that was the most, that command was the most successful command around. And it surprised everyone. And that's because I valued each person, no matter how big or how small their contribution is. They all were important. Everything they did, we depended on each other. And without each other, we couldn't be successful. And that's where I'm going with this. Without each other working together, we cannot be successful. And I encourage each and every one of you to work with each other and to, I don't want to use the word call out, but approach each other if you're seeing something that's not right and that could damage the cohesion of our group in a very positive way, so that we will be successful, because I really know that we have the people, the knowledge and the experience to make this work well. And I'm just encouraging you all to think outside the box, and to each of us to take a responsibility for making sure we are not one of those groups that are infighting, backbiting, and working around each other. So that's all I have to say. So we can go to the next part now. If Monica, since you, I'm sorry, Monica, did you want to say anything? Because I used you. Okay, thank you. And one more thing, is my little smiley face is offensive to anyone in the background? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. You never know. All right, here we go, values. Sorry, here we go. We got those on the screen. So Angie and I, we worked on going through these and incorporating the comments that we got from you all in the last session. So I'll just go over and just read below how we would like to start this. And if there's any comments, we can go into that. It says, below are the values and goals of the Police Accountability Commission, which should be reflected in the work of the commission. Establishing a new accountability system and oversight board for the police. These values include language from the City of Portland's core values, because the new police accountability system should help the city fulfill the commitments and hold the city as a whole accountable to its commitments. The Police Accountability Commission is committed to putting these values in action by fulfilling the listed success criteria and the works established in its works, establishing a new systems. And then we have, which is fair, just, objective, and reflects the concerns, needs, and desires of the community, including their criticisms of current accountability systems and structures. So is there any comments on this or any additions that anyone would like to add? No? So Angie, I just want to ask, on this part, are we asking for consensus for the group, or are we just reviewing it?
I think Dan has a question.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Eric.
I think Dan has a question. He has his hand up.
Oh, Dan, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening. I'm Dan Handelman, he, him pronouns. I'm one of the commissioners here. And my question is, why is just an objective have a slash between them instead of a comma? Is that deliberate, or is it just a typographical thing?
Dan, we're having a little trouble with your volume, but I think you asked, why is there a slash there instead of a comma?
Yes, that's correct.
I don't know. Do you think it should just be a comment, comma?
Yes, I do. I think it's
Okay, then let's put a commas. All right. I have no problem changing that.
And I just to answer Sophia's question really quickly, Sophia, I think we are not, well, we're discussing this, all the pieces of it, and then we will do a final, then we will talk about having a vote or a consensus agreement at the end of this entire, because there's also the portion of it that's in the table that we'll be talking about too. And thank you for going first. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Angie. And because of that, I also see that Winter has her hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. So just a clarifying question here. These values and goals are for our commission, but do they extend to the values and goals of the new board itself, or does that get established at another time?
I believe that they continue on. We haven't got to the portion where we do our transition. That's something that we still have to go and get to. But the way I see it now, it's for both. If there's, I'm gonna ask Angie and Samir if they can confirm that.
This is Angie, and yes, these are our commission's values and goals that we're going to be talking about in a minute. That we're talking about. These are not the values and goals that we are establishing for the new board. These are supposed to be. So this document right here is supposed to be kind of. I've heard it described as our North Star, or one of our foundational documents for us to go to and refer back to when we are trying to find our way through some of this information. And there's more to it than this. We also have the goals statements underneath too. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Angie. And maybe it will be good for the commissioners to see the document, the whole document, in case they haven't seen it. And then we can definitely go have discussion. Thank you, Sophie. Commissioner Sophie. Go ahead.
Okay. So Winter, does that answer your question?
Yes, and to be clear though, I guess I'm also putting on the table that it might be worthwhile to think of this as something that we establish for the board itself. And maybe in the next phase, we'll review and see if that makes sense. But I've reviewed the document, and it just, if this is our North Star, I don't know why it wouldn't be the North Star for the new board itself.
I agree. I just know that we haven't gotten there yet. So I didn't want to say that that's what it's for, and I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I would like for us to use it as well. Okay. So Victoria, I'm trying to see the whole screen and folks too. So if I miss a hand or something, please let me know.
Yes, of course, I will keep an eye on that.
Okay. So last week we went over these six areas: equity and inclusion, anti-racism, harm reduction, transparency, and trustworthiness, people-centered / community-centered. And then we added this sixth section for effectiveness. As we spoke the last time we met, there were a couple items that didn't quite fit, or we didn't feel like fitted in some of these other 5. So we made a 6th value called effectiveness. And and this actually reflects the 6 mirrors, not exactly the same, but they mirror what the city had as their values and goals. They had 6 and we have 6. So we thought that might be something positive, you know, when the commission looks at these. So for equity inclusion, we had a goal as outcomes are measured fair and just for all, irrespective of identity. And then these considerations are the success criteria, or maybe I should go back. Let me rephrase. For each value, we're looking at the goal. What is the goal of that value? And what types of things do we need to decide if we were successful? And these are a combination of all of what we have discussed with the whole commission. So right now, the equity and inclusion, I'm feeling that we're pretty good on that, but I kind of wanted to just give everyone a moment to look over that, just to have any comments that maybe we need some additions. But we did spend quite a bit of time on that one and anti-racism. So considering our talk today with anti-racism, do you all feel that there are some points here that we might need to add or discuss as a group?
Nobody has raised their hand. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Tirsa, please. Commissioner Tirsa.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me? I would kind of like to see your ad.
Commissioner Tirsa, your voice is broken out. It sounds like without some.
Okay, let me try this now.
That's perfect. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to add or see, let's see, I have some notes here. Possibly something along the lines of recognizing how racism is more than a personal belief system, and it's an indoctrination system, and kind of just, yeah, keeping that in mind.
So Tirsa, can I ask if you can, we don't want to keep you at this point, but can you give us a bullet to insert in that?
Sure, kind of recognize or reflect how racism is more than a personal belief system, but rather an indoctrination system. And something along the lines of the work that we're doing, aiming it to be anti-racist, but I can't quite put that together.
It's okay. We can come back to it, and that would be a consideration instead of a success criteria, because we couldn't really say that's the success, because how would you measure it, right? Or do you have a way of measuring? Am I just assuming that? Okay.
Commissioner Tirsa, is that all? Do you need to comment something else?
Oh no, I am good. I'm going to sit with that.
Okay, thank you. And now I see that Commissioner CMAP has his hand raised. Commissioner? Yeah, Commissioner Sima, you are on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, no, Commissioner Tirsa was very clear actually about it. I had a clarifying question about it, but I think in conversation between her and Commissioner Glenn, it was clarified. I really do like that bullet,
Thank
that
you.
addition.
Thank you very much. Okay. Commissioner Lovisa, please.
Sure, on the point of how would we measure the item that Tirsa mentioned, I wonder if we might consider the role that anti-racist trainings might play in either the for the members of the oversight board themselves or for the system that is set up to deal with complaints. Trainings obviously are not perfect, but they are measurable.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Is there anything else? No, I don't see anybody else. Commissioner Sophia. You are on mute.
All right. So if you could scroll up, I know we have section 3, down. It's highlighted, and then 5, I just wanted to take a quick look all the way down. 6, okay. There we go. I'm sorry, go back up. I just wanted to make sure we focused on the red areas. These are some things we needed for discussion. So we're on number 3, harm reduction, and reducing and addressing harm. So the goal is to reduce harm by policing and become an avenue to heal the harm caused by policing in our communities. And that's the goal. Are there any other goals in harm reduction and addressing harm? I just wanted to throw that out just in case anyone had any comments. Because I think this was some of the items that we were discussing at our last meeting. And and we also incorporated, I know it was trauma informed was one of those other topics that came up. So, excuse me, as we work through this, we try to use the comments of the group to try and wordsmith these, and I just want the group to look over them. So we're incorporating a trauma-informed lens to the work of addressing allegations of police misconduct from the beginning to the end. Not re-traumatizing people affected by police misconduct or the disposition of complaints. A system which reduces police violence by the Portland Police Bureau, including killings, and a system that ends impunity for misconduct, and a system that is humane both for the people going through it and the people administering it. So these were some of the comments we incorporated from our last session.
Yes.
I wanted to run this by the group. Go ahead. I see hands up already.
Yes, thank you. And Commissioners Charlie first, and then Commissioner May.
This just may be my take on it, but when I hear the word allegations, I'm wondering if there's a better word, because allegations always seems to be taken in a negative light. I mean, right away, I think, oh, they're lying. You know, that's what it said. That's from my life experience, really. They alleged, like, it's not really true. It minimizes it, it feels like.
So do we have any other words you have? in mind?
I don't. I'll need help on that, but I mean, I can look up some, I suppose. It just hit me.
Yeah, we have, I think I've just looked at some of the comments. Yeah, he's already put them in there. Dan had put complaints and someone else had said reports.
Reports sounds better for sure than allegations. There might be even a better word, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, we can, if anyone has another word, we can keep that open for wordsmithing. Monica says the reports is neutral. It's a neutral word. So we can wordsmith that. If we can come back to that next time and see if someone's come up with something different, or you can submit that, to one of us via email.
Okay.
As a suggestion. So go ahead, Victoria. Who's
Thank
next?
you. May, Commissioner May.
Hey, so I would like to add in section number 3, and talking about a system that fosters learning so that the policing community knows who they're serving. I find that's a big issue in our community.
That's an additional bullet, Mary. Okay. Anything else, Mary? How's that look? Oh, you're on mute, Mary.
Oh, May?
May, I'm sorry. Ding
It's
dong.
okay. I get Amy, Mary, Meg all the time. Yeah,
I should have my glasses on. Sorry. How is that? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Commissioner May, do you want to add more or just you finish?
No, I think I'm finished for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Charlie, I see your hand raised. Maybe you didn't. No, okay. Thank you. Is there any additional comment or additional dot to the conversation that anybody wants to add?
I know. Dan corrected me with a dot. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Lovinsa, please.
Sure, I'm not quite sure of the language for this, but in terms of the right-hand column, maybe it's something along the lines of a system that employs skilled professionals or professionals skilled in harm reduction or something along those lines.
Thank you, Commissioner Lovisa. Did you finish? Yes, okay. Now, Commissioner Monica, please. You are in mute.
That last bullet point is great. I'm sorry, the last dot is great. System that employs professional skilled in harm reduction throughout the, I would add throughout the entire process or throughout the entire process of police accountability. So it's not something that is done only in one spot, but it's done universally.
I like both of those points are great.
Thank you. I think it's the last comment from the number 3. we can pass to number 4.
So we did combine a couple items from the input that we got the last time under this transparency and trustworthiness to build and earn trust from the public. The public has access to the information about the complaints process and outcomes. The new accountability system builds and earns trust from communities. Accountability system that has integrity and does not lie or mislead the public. Meetings of the new systems are open to the public and media. And a system that actively communicates with the public. So we have any comments on that? I know we added some things to that was sort of in a category that we hadn't yet placed, but for those whose comments are here, do you feel comfortable with those?
And Commissioner Faith has her hand raised. Commissioner?
Yeah, I feel comfortable with these additions. I'm wondering if there's an added point around something, I want to say something around, oftentimes communication is deliberately opaque. So not lying or misleading, but withholding. And I don't know, and so I'm curious how we can cover that here of, perfect, thank you. I think that's Samir. Great.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other additional comment? Okay, Commissioner Sima?
Because you should do it sooner than later.
It's kind of juggling to come up with the right words in my mind and hoping to get some help here. But I think if I say it, you guys will get the idea. But along around the idea of transparency and trustworthiness was the idea of how we attain our sources of information, or what we invite as sources of information to be informed. And for me, it's to be able to make sure that, you know, you don't necessarily have a representation of law enforcement in these when gathering information for trustworthiness, that we're not directly sourcing. I'm sorry, there's feedback coming from someone. Yeah, all right, yeah, it's good now. Yeah, along the lines of when gathering information that'll allow us to trust our sources, that we don't seek information from law enforcement. We're already getting enough information from them as they are, that we don't need any form of expert testimony or anything like that. Not sure if the idea is there, but I don't know if it's coming out correctly.
Let me ask you a question. Did you say that when looking for necessary information, you have to be sure that there's the sources that you can trust? Or
Yeah.
how do you? Mhm.
For information like that bullet where it says the public has access to information about complaints, processes, and outcomes, that we're looking at information not to be provided by like a PIO, for instance, because it's usually washed and cleaned out versions, you know, rose-colored lenses type thing. Accountability system builds and earns trust from the communities and not from the law enforcement type of thing. I think I'm trying to be very explicit. I'm adding some explicit language over here that may not play well with this, but that's what's on my mind.
Okay, and for yeah, yes, we already, PIO is a public information officer. Thank you. Or communication staff for the government. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Sima. Is there anything else?
Yeah.
Oh, Commissioner Faith, let me check because I think Commissioner Monica, oh, but you don't want to say anything, Commissioner Monica? I saw your hand.
Yeah, it was up for a second, but I think CMAP actually touched upon what I was thinking of. I was thinking also of, you know, the final product, the final reports or the final findings should be easily searchable and accessible to the public so that they serve as a way of accountability, right? So that it informs the community of the findings that the PAC will have. And those findings shouldn't be buried. They should be easily searchable online or wherever, you know, like the way my nursing license is easily searchable online is what I'm trying, you know, that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Monica. And now Commissioner Faith.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe think a little bit more about what Commissioner CMAB was suggesting. I think what I'm hearing you say is prioritizing, I know you want to be explicit, but the sources we're hearing from, we trust because of their lived experience. And I feel like that I don't want to be implicit in what we're speaking about, but I also don't even want to give any more light in our document to people who already get so much. So I don't know if that's an answer to your sentence, but I'm with you and struggling through it.
I really understand the fine line that you're talking about, and I believe you and I are in the same shared struggle.
Thank you. And we will continue the conversation in case you find more information. And I will pass it, Commissioner Dan.
Yeah, well, I was going to suggest that we should spell out PIOs and make sure we're talking about Police Bureau Public Information Officers, because there could be one for the board that we're designing. Then lower down the part where it says meetings/investigations proceedings, I don't know if that's meant to stay that way. I think the investigations and proceedings are incorporated in that first point there, the first dot. But so I think that the sentence about meetings was very explicit to be about when they're holding a meeting to be open to the public. And you know, again, I recognize that's aspirational, and I recognize that the city attorney said that might not always be possible, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. You know, that's our goal, right?
Yes. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And now, Commissioner Sima.
One of the final things was also disclosing all sources of information which we weigh, our board weighs and judges, or what we weigh and judge on. Kind of like just making sure that we're properly sourced and cited as we make decisions and move on.
Thank you. And for a moment, I saw Commissioner Winter raise her hand. Do you still want to talk, Commissioner, or you're okay?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, and Commissioner Sima, do you want to add something? No? Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Monica.
I wonder if we should make sure that any form of retribution when providing information should be specifically not allowed. I don't know how to put this so that people are not fearful, because if we're going to be so open with this information, I don't want people to be fearful of sharing information, which may cause retribution later, right? Does that make sense? So do we need to somehow state specifically that retribution for sharing information to make this process transparent? How do we make it so that retribution is not allowed? I don't know how that could play into it.
And the way that is taking notes, they say an accountability system that protects sources of information from retribution and retaliation.
Can we use the term reprisals?
Is
I don't
that,
know.
oh, yes, oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Dan?
Yes, I like Commissioner Husseini's proposal about disclosing information, but I also think we should think about when somebody wants to submit an anonymous complaint, which should, I think, be possible. I think we shouldn't say all sources of it, or, you know, we should somehow allow for anonymous complaints in that goal.
Mm-hmm. And how would you suggest it can be disclosure here?
I think it can say, although anonymous complaints will be welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Sima?
Absolutely. Actually, thank you, Dan. That was an oversight of mine. Just simply disclose that this is anonymous information that I received this day and time, whatnot, whatever you can provide around that, and why. But yes, absolutely welcome it, but just disclose it. Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. And if there's anything else, we can go to number 5.
I think there was one thing in the Q&A.
Okay.
Maybe.
And the Q&A, do you want me to read it?
Faith, I think Faith is
Right.
raised her
Okay.
hand for that.
Okay, go ahead, Faith.
Thank you, Philip, for the recommendation. There's a comment around the commission's independence from the police, which rightfully could be a trust building, could fall into our number 4 around trustworthiness, about just the acknowledgement of the independence of this body. And I'm wondering if along saying that is like disclosing, like the willingness to be open to disclose any potential, I don't know, conflicts of interest among the commission.
Okay. Commissioner Faith, I don't know if you think this is not, it needs a little bit more, but yes, good. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Dan?
Well, I just want to clarify from Commissioner Aiken, the commenter and the way you read it is referring to this commission as being independent, but it's been typed up as being the accountability system. Are you talking about our commission or the board or both of them? Also, just before I lose the floor, Samir, our staff person, has typed in the chat that there is these slashes that are here under the ones that I was referring to under meetings, investigations, and proceedings are to show that we haven't decided on anything yet. So I don't know how we're going to proceed, but my comment was that I think investigations and proceedings are covered, and we should just get rid of those from that dot. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, the way that it's written here is the accountability system. Good call. And it's sort of to Winta's question earlier. So I don't know if we're wording all of these as so that they can potentially be a part of both our commission and the accountability system. So I don't know how to answer that.
And Commissioner Eric.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think to the last point, I think it's could be really helpful in defining sort of the next phase and what the accountability board itself has for values and goals and all that. But I think we're going to have enough difficulty nailing it down for just the commission to try to create something that will be transferable automatically. I think this will be a great guide to that, but it may be helpful if we just focus on sort of this work and then, knowing a lot of it will be transferable. But if we have folks looking to, 30 yards down the road, it might be tough to get any traction. Just a thought.
Thank you, Commissioner Eric. And I see Commissioner Angie and then Commissioner Winter.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Commissioner Eric. I completely agree with you. And I was going to reiterate those same facts that it will be hard to move on to the next stage without having this in place for our guiding principles right now. And then we can move on to figuring out what that new board will also have, hopefully. But I think that right now our main focus is to just concentrate on what our guiding principles are, our commission's guiding principles are. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Winter?
Yeah, I've been struggling with this point throughout the whole document, and in the transparency and trustworthiness section in particular, we really go back and forth between what makes this commission transparent and trustworthy versus the new board. And so I wonder if we keep the language, but even put it in another section. Maybe there's a parking lot even within the document, but to make that distinction clear, that is then a starting point for the next phase of this. But so just one suggestion about how to reconcile that.
Thank you, Commissioner Winter. Okay, now, yeah.
I just wanted to ask, how are we on time, Victoria?
Yes, we have a few minutes. We would like to finish with, this is the most important part of the meeting. We can even have another 15 minutes, but also a break. We already passed break time. We can either go to break for 5 minutes and come back and do 5 and 6, or continue and finish 5 and 6 and then take a short break.
I think it's a good time to take a break. I don't know about the commission. How does the commissioners feel? Take one since we're finished. I think we're almost finished with 4. Let's just start back at 5.
Yes. Okay, then it's as 8:17. Let's come back at 8:22.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. If there is, let me see. If there is not more comments for point 4, we can move to the number 5, unless there is more comments on 4.
I could ask if there was clarity on the language for the 2 with the slashes here.
Okay. The first one, do you think is, commissioners, do you think that the way is right now has enough clarity? The first dot is they will talking about is the public has access to information about complaint processes and outcomes from sources other than police public information officers or from sources and get from sources we trust due to the lived experience. That's the first one. If there is something missing or not clear enough, please let me know.
Which version of the text does the group prefer,
Oh, they have to choose for one or another? Okay,
or combine?
or combine. Yes, Commissioner Dan?
Right, I think it should, the slash should go away and say particularly from sources we trust.
Okay.
Just use the word already. That'll take care of it.
Oh, that sounds good. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. And the second one is the last dot. An accountability system that protects sources of information from and which word, or if you want to say and or comma, but it say retribution, retaliation, and reprisals. What would be the best way to make it clear? Commissioner Sima?
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the last one. I was just really struggling to formulate my question. I'm running very slow today. Everything is just, I think processing is just, I don't know what's happening. I'm out of RAM. I'm having I don't understand the part where it says particularly from sources we trust due to their lived experiences. It's not computing with me. Can somebody expand on that? How do we describe sources we trust due to their lived experience in this frame?
Commissioner Fate?
And we're both wrestling with this. I think what I'm trying to say, or what I was originally saying is, hey, we trust you because of your lived experience. So we're going to listen to you and prioritize you over than who we normally hear, which are PIOs. So what I just said was in conversation, and I don't know how to put this into this document. I guess maybe it's like cut this and put it first. And then, yes, thank you. Thank you for understanding my chicken scratch.
Yeah,
Does that
so I
land
get
with
it
you,
then.
CMAB?
Yeah, no, I get it then. So that's basically like what we internalize as what we mean by from sources other than public information officers. And like internally, that guise is being driven by prioritizing voices that have been more affected communities. And I get it now. That makes sense.
And Commissioner Angie has her hand raised. Maybe she has an idea too about this.
I don't necessarily have an idea, but I'm also running on empty. Sorry, and I'm low on RAM. But the fact that it says the public has access to information, where it seems like it's saying that we have access to information. I'm a little. Please, will one of you guys clarify that piece for me a little bit? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We're also circling on this, and I think that this is like Winta's earlier point, is that so many of these bullets just like loop in and out of who we are as like our priorities as the commission versus what we're trying to build. And I don't know if Commissioner Winta, if you feel comfortable commenting. I think your earlier recommendation was to just pull out this whole transparency and trustworthiness number and like parking lot it, because maybe it's more of an action that we're requesting versus our own principle. Like, I don't know right now that this commission needs to build and earn trust from the public. I think that this is what we are asking of the accountability body.
Thank
say
you.
something really quickly?
Okay, I want to pass it to Winter and then Angie and then Eric and then Samir. Winter, Commissioner Winter.
Yeah, thank you. So I think there are parts of this that are about our commission's work, but at this stage, you know, the bullet point that says we have the one that we're circling around. Can we just say that the commission will accept information from a variety of sources? Because the resolution itself says that, you know, we will hear from police and community and, you know, a whole spectrum of voices to shape our work. Whereas when we're talking about complaints and how we receive information or reports and how we receive information there, that's when the issue of PIOs and people with lived experience, I think, comes to the forefront.
Thank you, Commissioner Winter. Commissioner Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that I think that for this transparency and trustworthiness, it almost feels like we're trying to fit every topic in every bullet point. You know, I mean, we talk about under the equity and inclusion, we talk about people most affected and, you know, including people in the conversation. I'm not sure that the conversation we're having right now is really about trustworthiness and transparency, and maybe redundant. If we want to get more specific, maybe we have it in equity and inclusion, but it just feels like we're trying to put all of the points from all six in all six areas.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Eric. And then Commissioner Angie?
Yeah, could you scroll down just a little bit, Samir? Thank you so much. Yeah, that bullet originally said the public has access to information about complaints, processes, and outcomes, which when Sophia and I were putting this together, that bullet came from our commission trying to be transparent with the public. So I just want to give a little bit of background information about where that's coming from. And then that other piece of it from unbiased sources other than Police Public Information Office that was added recently. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I don't know who by whom or at exactly what time, and Samir might be able to give a little bit more about that, but I just wanted to give a little history on where the original verbiage came from and what we were trying to address. And it doesn't mean that it's completely correct, obviously, and we definitely want everybody's input on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Angie. And then I can send it to Samir.
Yeah, just to clarify, the intent behind the whole document was something between the two visions originally. And I want to stress that ultimately this document is up to the commission. How you want to use it and what you want to do with it it's entirely the decision of the members of this commission. But as originally described the last time it was discussed, which was at the March 3rd meeting, it was designed to be about to be able to judge the outcomes of the work of the commission, which is to say the creation of an accountability system that would do X, the creation of an accountability system that would do Y. And so I think to clarify that was sort of the intention there. And then the things that were the commission will be anti-racist would go into the community standards. The things that were the commission will hear from the sources of information would go into the agenda and scope, which does lay, each of those documents lays out how the commission will be in the case of the community standards ideally, or what the commission will do in the scope and agenda, but that this document would be something to judge the outcomes of the work by. So that might help clarify if that's still the shared vision for this document. That might help clarify some of the questions, and there may be suggestions like the one in the Q&A that the commission wants to use now as to sort of adapt it to the new system, as well as retaining it for commission use as well. There's some things that'll be both. So if that helps clarify, and I can't answer, I don't know off the top of my head to Angie's question where that initial dot point came from, but it was in the original draft is all I know.
Thank you, Samir. And also I know this column is about kind of the actions to make it this value consideration and successful. But at the end, this document, I just want to remind you, is the values, and the values is the foundation of the principles that will guide you. It's not about a strategic plan or process, or it's the values are what is gonna guide you, direct your actions. And of course, how you measure how you are successful, that's why you're working here. But just don't keep in mind that the main point is establish the values and how you're gonna measure the values or the actions. Okay. Do we need more time for number 1, and I think it's 9?
So Victoria, I want to suggest, I like the conversation that we're having here and the thought process of what we're really trying to get at. In some ways, I feel like we've encompassed everything we want to have in there, but we just need to kind of maybe wordsmith it and reorganize it. So I just want to ask the group, you know, given the information that we have on number 4, do you all feel comfortable that it's containing some of the issues, even though it's maybe not expressed, written in a way that it might need to be, but that we have the concept of what we're trying to get at, and transparency and trustworthiness. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that and see if we're there. And then Angie and I and whoever else would like to add can wordsmith that and bring it back to the group, because this is a draft, but I just wanted to make sure we got the gist of what the commission is wanting in that. And I feel like we do, but I just want to make sure, just ask the group, does it contain the gist of what we're trying to come up with transparency and trustworthiness? And then we can just kind of wordsmith that later on at the end. Maybe we'll have more clarity then.
And thank you, Commissioner Sophia. And Commissioner Winter has her hand raised.
Yeah, I'd like to propose one change in this entire section. What if each time we say the new accountability system, we replace that with the PAC, so that it's talking about the transparency and trustworthiness of our commission in the stage that we're in. So we commit to building and earning trust through the process of establishing the new board and so on. If changing that to the PAC clears up some of that confusion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. Just trying to wait for Samir to wordsmith it.
Is that what you're trying to talk about, Winter? Something like that?
Sorry, go ahead, Samir.
I'm just asking if that's what the sort of thing you were talking about, Winter. Like I do a couple of them for example.
Yeah, and I would make it even as simple as just replacing accountability system with PAC. You know, that the PAC will have access to a variety of sources, that we will earn trust, that we will be open to the public, and so on and so on. So just replacing the accountability system with PAC in each of those lines.
Yeah, I'll do and track changes.
I was gonna comment that we don't have to end at 8 right now. We can continue a little bit more with the conversation, because this is very important.
And this would be that change to the whole thing. It would be the large wholesale change to the document used in a very different way if this were to happen. This is kind of what I was referring to earlier. Which again, it's up to you how you want to use it, but.
Commissioner Dan?
Well, just, I don't remember if Commissioner Johannes was at the last meeting or not, but I made the comment at that meeting that some of these were applying to the new board and some of them were applying to us. And I don't think all of these apply to our work. I mean, we're not taking complaints as a commission. So I think, I mean, it may be well intentioned to keep us focused on our thing, but I think so much work has gone into this at this point that maybe what we can do is just take the things that are about the new board and put them in the fourth column, and take the things that are about our board and put them in the, leave them in the third column. And in that way, it's clear when we're talking about the goals for the new system and when we're talking about the goals for us.
Thank you, Commissioner Dan. And let's see what others think about that idea.
I think that was something that Commissioner Winter was kind of mentioning earlier on. She had already said that maybe we could just put that in a parking lot kind of thing. So basically, I think we have it at the end of the document. I think Samir had started that or put that down there.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we undo any of the work or erase any of the good thinking that's gone into the document, just in creating clarity about who we're talking about, particularly since in this next phase, we'll really be focusing on what the new board, should look like.
Thank you.
Okay. I really appreciate you all, your hard thinking on this. It's complicated to put your thoughts into words, thoughts and ideas into words.
It's easy to do when you have a community.
Yes, it is much easier.
You have a scribe like Samir. Thank you, Samir.
Is there anything else on point number 4?
Okay. Okay, we're moving to number 5. People-centered and community-centered, with the goal of the value of the needs of the community, placing the value of the needs of the community above the needs of the city, government, or PPP. I'm just thinking about that. Sorry, I'm looking at the value. So is there any other comments about the goal for the people-centered, community-centered?
I just really love number 1.
Okay, let's go. Let's move then. Meet the will of the voters when they pass the ballot measure. Yes, I love that one too, because that was a lot of doing on the part of the commissioners and the people, and it spoke very loudly to how we should be conducting our commission to meet their needs and what they voted for. 2, a system which is created and evolves with the input of the community. And which empowers the community, a system that does not privilege the accused over the complainant, a system whose public communication is neutral until a final decision on the complaint has been achieved. As critical as it is to share knowledge with the communities, listening to the communities is equally important, and providing opportunities for the community to speak to decision makers. We have 7, as surveyed, people satisfaction with the new system is higher than the current system. And 8 is a police bureau that is not biased towards the white supremacist groups. So any discussion on the components that we have here in number 5?
We have Commissioner Simab and then Commissioner Angie.
Okay.
One is a comment and the other one hits on the last part, because that just it gives me tinnitus just to even read that last part. But and I'll explain that. But I do want to thank our commissioner public attendees because they're exemplary of bullet point number 2, which, you know, we've had vital community feedback tonight through our Q&A from the public, and that has actually made it on here. So more reason to have more and grow that audience, and I hope that it does grow. We had 3 last time, we have 5 now, and so it's just vitally important, and it's proof how public input is important during these meetings and having these Q&As. And then to explain the last part, police bureau that is not biased towards the white supremacists. I think that has been a systemic issue, and it's been solidified with the fact that we retired a Nazi in 2019 at Portland Police Bureau's highest pay rate. His name is Mark Kruger. He retired as a captain and as a Nazi. And so, and we let that go. So it's, I think it's and the fact that through arbitration, he was welcomed back and functioned as a police officer for several more years, cleared record, promoted, means that we know that this system is actually built on white supremacy. And I think that having a statement that more or less acknowledges that instead of kind of taps around it with that one right there would be important. Plus, the KKK and the Portland Police Bureau were together in presentation and many photos and pictures of it historically in the mid 1900s. So yeah, can we find a way to make that a little bit more of a, can we find a will to make that a little bit more of a prominence in that one rather than just kind of tapping around it with this statement? I don't know how to find that language.
So Simab, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking commissioners for help on this one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
We have 2 more people, then they may have 2 more commissioners. They may have some ideas. Commissioner Angie.
Thank you, Seema. When we were forming this piece right here, I had a thought bubble, and I didn't know how to put this in there with the emphasis that I was feeling also. So I can appreciate where you're coming from. I'm sorry, I'm not any more help in that. But yeah, I do have a question really quickly about a system that does not privilege the accused over the complainant. And thank you for moving that over, Samir, because I couldn't read it. Acknowledges who holds the power when historically and there's been the highest accountability for the police misconduct. It makes that statement seems to me like we're saying that we're not going to privilege the person that's being accused. Am I and if somebody else can say this better than I can, am I completely confused? Can somebody explain this one to me just really quickly? So I am understanding it, because it sounds like we're trying to not privilege the people that have historically not had the privilege. And that's what I'm hearing, right?
And Sima.
Thank you,
Commissioner
the officer. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Commissioner May, please.
I'll be quick. I was just going to suggest what I said earlier about creating a system that fosters learning with the agency and the community. I think now that we're on the community-centered section, it probably fit better here.
Thank you. And would you suggesting to add a number, or where would you add it?
I guess I would add it where number 7, or I mean number 8.
Number 8, thank you.
Yes.
You say it one more time?
Yeah, please, can you repeat it, Commissioner? Commissioner May, just to take the notes.
Yes. So earlier, I had spoken about suggested adding in something about a system that fosters learning. I am now thinking that it probably would fit better under the community-centered. So suggestion would be like a system that fosters learning with the agency and the community.
Thank you, Commissioner. And
By
please.
agency, you mean bureau, right? The PPB?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner May. And there's still the question, Commissioner Angie wanted, no anymore. Oh yeah, because they was corrected. Thank you. I will pass it to Commissioner Charlie.
So on item number 7, wait, is it 7? Yes, the not biased towards white supremacists. A police bureau that does not favor white supremacists, which is what they do. Because bias feels awkward in there for some reason.
Yeah.
And the other one, what is that? Does not privilege the accused. It does not privilege the accused. I mean, could favor be used there as well? I don't know. Favor the officer. Yeah. No, I think there's a better word. I just can't think of one. I'm lucky I'm thinking it all right now, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I want to just remind everyone this A52, and Commissioner Dan say, can we acknowledge that we likely won't be voting on this tonight, so there may not be a public input section, or we are still going to try to get in public input? We are taking public comment either way. It may be just be general. I mean, our goal is to do it. But instead of right before a vote. Okay. And we almost there. We only have the last number, effectiveness. Or we're still working on the 5th?
I would like to revisit number 3, and also 7, and 8.
Okay.
I think I would ask the group to think of some wordsmithing that we might be able to use and to submit that. Because I think we all know what we're trying to say, but we just can't figure out how to put the words in there. And I do like them all. Look, I'm just like, I like them all. I just really, maybe when I'm not under pressure to come up with some better words. So how does everyone feel about that? Okay. So does that mean that we're okay to move on to number 6? We get some input from the group. Okay.
Okay, let's go to number 6.
So effectiveness, we don't have a goal there. We left that open. But this was the group of items that we kind of sort of combined and moved from some other items because they seem to fit under this umbrella of effectiveness. So we don't have the goal. So we might want to talk about that. But since we don't have it at the moment, we'll just go over the bullets and then we'll go back and see what we want to put there. So we have number 1 is an accountability system that is flexible enough to adapt to change. And we want to say which changes. And then number 2, every complaint is investigated within a certain amount of time. And 3, the uptake of the system is system as reflected in the rates of, I don't know why I can't see that.
There's nothing there.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
It was a comment that somebody made at the March 3rd meeting, but
Okay.
I don't have the end of it.
So let's see what you folks have to say about this and what we could put in as that goal for effectiveness. What are we trying to achieve with our effectiveness? Or is this effectiveness category effective, right? Is it what we want? Does it really entail what the group was trying to talk about in the last meeting?
Oh, yes. Let's go. Commissioner Winter and then Commissioner Angie.
Yeah, I wonder if in effectiveness, we can point back to some of the commitments that we've made to good, like quality community engagement, passage of this, the acceptance of this by the city council, like what are the measures that we've actually stood up a board as opposed to how do we define the effectiveness of the board?
Thank you. Samir, did you were able to capture?
I don't think so. Do you have specific text?
Yes, I'll offer it in the chat.
Oh, it's in the chat. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Angie. And then Commissioner Charlie.
Thank you. So that number 1, the new accountability system is flexible enough to adapt to changes. That when formulating this one, it meant the meaning of this one is it's flexible enough to adapt to change. We want to make sure that that it's not so rigid that we basically undo our work is what that's what the spirit of that one is. But I'm not sure if those words are exactly how we want to form that. So just an FYI about anybody, and if anybody has any wordsmithing or any better way of describing that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Charlie?
Well, I was thinking back about the goal along the lines of what, I'm sorry, what was your name? Winta was saying that, I mean, isn't if this is effective, what we're doing, then the goal would be to be successful in actually creating this what the Police Accountability Commission is supposed to do according to the 26-218, 217, I forget now, but right? Isn't that the overall goal? Doesn't that say, we don't know if it'll be effective though. I don't know. Huh. That was just the first thing that popped in my head.
Thank you, Commissioner Charlie. Is there any other comment about that, the goal, or any of the dots? Yes, Commissioner Lovisa.
Sure, I just wanted to say really quick, I remember last time when we were talking about these, as we were going down the right-hand column, the success criteria, the question kept coming up like, okay, how are we going to measure this? How are we going to measure this? You know, we have like sort of these ideas and ideals, but like, how do we know that any of those ideals are being reflected by the work that we do or by the board ultimately? And so we kind of kept asking it like, okay, what can we measure basically? Like what are our SMART goals, I think is kind of what I had said, like what's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound for each one of these. And I think it came up so many times as we were trying to figure it out that I think maybe that's part of why effectiveness itself became one of the values, because, you know, it's like having the values is one thing, but then like holding yourself to like an effective implementation of those values is another part of it. So I think that might maybe kind of I don't know, shed some light on why effectiveness is here, and then we also have success criteria on the right hand column. So maybe it's sort of like some of the question is about how to frame that, or how to phrase if effectiveness is really, you know, one of the primary values. I don't know, maybe accountability is like another way of thinking about that or putting that. Yeah, if anyone has any other ideas.
Commissioner Dan. Thank you, Commissioner Lewis.
Yeah, I'm looking at number 3, and there are a couple other things in here, and I'm assuming somebody's going to go back and review all these. But number 3 is it's way beyond when we're done as a commission that they're going to measure how effective the new board is. But we can say something like that: the board will have ways to measure its effectiveness by looking at rates of, for instance, sustained complaints and complainant satisfaction surveys and things like that. So, but you know, we won't know what those outcomes are because we will be long disbanded by the time they have enough data to publish that.
Thank you, Commissioner. And there is a couple of suggestions in the chat. I don't know how you'll be able to read it. Commissioner Sima?
Yeah, just additional language, feeling like number 1 was incomplete in my mind. Again, I'm running slow here. I like the second half of that green. So a new accountability system that has the flexibility to meet changing needs of the community of which it serves as originally intended, or as something along the lines of as the measure intended, or as the voters intended. But just, giving it a root as to, so it doesn't necessarily sacrifice its values from where it started, as has the current IPR commission. Just trying to learn our lesson from the current IPR commission that we're trying to replace. This is a direct issue with them.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now Commissioner Lovisa.
Sure, I think what Dan said kind of inspired me. I had originally made the suggestion for number 2. Like, I think I had said something like, for example, like every complaint is investigated within like a certain amount of time, as being one accountability mechanism that the new board might have. But I think that actually could be removed. I think we actually could take that language out possibly, because that is contained, I think, within that language that Commissioner Handelman just suggested, which is the board will have ways to measure its effectiveness. And I think basically, I think maybe a second part even is, I was sort of writing down like the board will have mechanisms for measuring its own effectiveness, which is really just a restatement, I think, of what Dan just said. Maybe and will take action if those measures, are not satisfactory. I can't think of the exact wording, but something like, if the rates, of it measuring its own effectiveness are abysmal, that maybe that should like trigger and like kick in, some type of some set of changes, because we've mentioned several times in other parts of this document that we would like to make possibly a board that could like evolve, and so and respond and adapt to the things that the measurements are showing.
Thank you, Commissioner Lovisa. And I will pass it to co-chair and Commissioner Angie to grab this out, because we still have 2 other elements on the agenda that we have to cover.
Yes, I was just going to mention that. Thank you so much, Victoria. Yes, we do have 2 other items, and it does look like we were able to take that the royal we, CMOB has made notes on everything that was discussed, which was a really great conversation. Thank you so much. But we do need to move on to the reports from the subcommission meetings, and also from public comments. So if we could wrap that part up, and we will be sending more information out we can talk via email about that document. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Dan, is there anything, can we wait for the report, or you need to comment now?
Yeah, there's a part of the document that got skipped over, and I asked Samir about it, and he said that we were supposed to be discussing it after we did everything else. So it was something that was inserted underneath the intro paragraph, and there were 2 versions of it. There's an A and a B, and I don't know if we're going to look at that tonight, but it would be the last thing to look at on this document.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the 2 that was before the values. Okay.
Yes, Dan, we were supposed to get through that, but in light of time at this moment, we just want to make sure we get our public comment and the values, and we can revisit that again. I think that's going to take a lot of more discussion from the group. And the draft, it's been sent out, or will be sent out again as we fixed it today for the group to review. And then we can also give them a little time to think about that. Section number, I don't even know, it's not even numbered, but there's another section below the intro that we discussed. And I just think it's going to take more time, and we need to really get through the rest of this at the moment. So if you have any other comments, please send those.
Thank you. Before public comment, do we have the report of, in the agenda, say first is the report of the subcommittee on bylaws and internal process by Commissioner Jason and Commissioner Lovisa.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Lovisa Lloyd. I'm a co-chair of the bylaws subcommittee. I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible because I know it is really late and people have had a really long day. So thank you so much, everyone, for your stamina. I will try to be brief. We have draft bylaws. That is the big headline here. And I'm officially presenting these bylaws to you, the full PAC, now, tonight. For basically the beginning of a comment period. So obviously we're not going to talk about these tonight. We don't have, a ton of time to touch on them, but there are a couple of items that I would love for people to review and take a look at before next week, because we are hoping, I believe that next week, next meeting, next Thursday, the 24th, that we will have a chance to discuss the bylaws a little bit more. And if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, edits, things that they feel like are confusing or things that they think were left out, that will be a time when we can talk about that at more length. So like I said, this is the comment period. Please submit anything that you have on this document, which I think Samir sent it out yesterday. We'll send it out again today or tomorrow. And just take a look through it, peruse it. These are essentially the rules that we're all going to agree to live by and play by for the rest of this commission, until and unless we amend them. So it is really important that everybody kind of gets on the same page and feels pretty comfortable, and that we get to a place of consensus with these bylaws. It's funny, I had a whole thing written out, but then after I heard Commissioner Wesley's statement, I just wanted to say I think the most important thing is accessibility, and I want everybody to feel really comfortable with these bylaws. If you've been on this bylaws subcommittee, you've looked at this language a million times, you've been over it a million times, and if you haven't, it will be all new to you, and it may seem really confusing. And so I would love to talk to you. I would be happy to take your phone call. Jason would also be happy to take your phone call. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you just need somebody to walk you through some part of it that seems a little confusing or strange, or if you just have any feedback of any kind, please don't hesitate to call me or email me. And something I would say probably two quick things that I want to draw people's attention to. A lot of the language is boilerplate or an adaptation of boilerplate language. We did use drafting groups, and everybody on the subcommittee has touched this language in some way, shape, or form, adapted it, changed it around to make it a little more clear. But there are a couple of places in the doc where we have diverged significantly from what other groups have done. And I think the two most important things that I just want to flag for everyone and make sure everybody knows and understands are, one, decision making. We love consensus. We are a consensus seeking group, and we have decided, or as the subcommittee, we propose that we go with a modified consensus decision model. Modified consensus meaning that first we try to get to a consensus with the group, meaning general agreement and no strong opposition. If we don't, failing that, we'll discuss things again, try to get to that consensus if we possibly can. If that fails, then we will go to a vote, and the vote is 60%. And we felt that that was a sufficient majority, that it's not, we're not putting it at 50+1, we're putting it at 60%. So that's one thing, but in general, we are aiming for consensus. That's what we would like. And this is actually the voting procedure that we will use to adopt these bylaws. So it is in your best interest and in everybody's best interest for you to review this document and see if you have any strong objections to it. And if not, great, wonderful. If we have consensus, we can go ahead and adopt this. So that's one. And then two is that we did write in some language regarding leave of absence and trying to give commissioners who are going through something or having some issues in their personal life, or for whatever reason, giving them an option to leave the commission with notice for up to 3 months while staying on the commission. So those are two things I wanted to draw your attention to. Samir was kind enough to help draft a kind of a quick 2-page summary doc that kind of hits the highlights. So if reading the whole 7-page doc is not feeling very accessible for you, you can read the 2-pager, and if you agree with everything there, you'll probably agree with most things in the bylaws. Jason, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, just this group, like it seems all the others, generated a lot of ideas that didn't quite fit as bylaws. And so we've created a secondary document called the operating instructions that is probably not in shape to look at this moment, but it's just a collection of how we're going to do our work that don't quite fit as a hard and fast rule, but just as we're distinguishing our values and how we like to work with each other, we want to mark these down and keep track of them over time. So just note that as you look at these bylaws, there's a secondary document. And if you generate some great ideas that don't quite fit in the values, don't quite fit in the bylaws, send them to Lavisa or myself, and we'll see if we can squeeze them into the operating rules. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. I think that's a wonderful point, which is, is there anything we missed? We would love to have fresh eyes on this doc, just to let us know if you have any other thoughts, any other ideas, suggestions. Please don't hesitate to let us know that. So I guess if you have done a lot of work on this document already, have a great weekend. If not, please try to find a little bit of time in the next 5 days to review it. And once again, call me, call Jason, email us if you have any questions about anything. We would be happy to walk you through it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lovisa, and thank you, Commissioner Jason. Thank you for all the work you have done with the bylaws. It's really appreciated. We're gonna go to the last item on the agenda. There is the public comment, and if please can we have the slide of public comment now? Let's say public comment. Okay. Then we can go to public comment. I don't have in front of me if I have to read anything about it. Just invite public comment.
We invite public comment. People can raise their hands and then be promoted into this forum. We ask that you keep your comments to 90 seconds, and it can be open comments tonight.
Thank you, Christine.
Yep.
I don't think there is none, because probably it is late, but we can move on. Okay,
Thank you. Then I'm going to ask if it's okay if we review the parking lot and that Samir pull that up for us this evening? Because it's at the bottom of the document that he was just working on.
It's just two things. So one is it's basically the items that relate to the commission as opposed to relate to the output of the commission. So one is being independent of the police. And then there was also a comment that came from the Q&A about the DOJ settlement agreement being based on excessive force used against people in mental health crisis and the potential of including that in the community-centered section. Those are the only items that I track.
Thank you so much, Samir.
Thank you. Then thank you for your contributions today. Thank you also to the interpreters supporting access to meetings of the Police Accountability Commission and its subcommittees for all Portlanders. Thank you to the members of the public for being here and contributing with questions and thoughts. And please sign up for email updates on the Police Accountability Commission at https I will not try. Christine, sorry.
That's okay. tinyurl.com/Portland PAC updates.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we all are lucky in RAM today. I see. But thank you very much. Thank you for all your work and all your comments and your patience and your contributions. And again, Charlie, thank you very much for sharing. I really value, and I can say a lot of people do, but thank you for being an inspiration and a leader and a courageous woman and beautiful person inside and out. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is that Sophia and Angie, anything else? The co-chairs?
No, I would just like to reiterate your thank you for everyone. I thank the public comments in the Q&A. I felt that they were very helpful, as Commissioner Seamob had already mentioned. We thank you all for participating, and we hope to see you back again as our guests and our public, giving us feedback to how we might be able to help our community. So thanks all commissioners, and we will have more work ahead of us. And I please ask you to think about how we can be different, and how we can do things different and make a difference with this commission. And how do we take care of each other on the commission as well? Because this is extremely hard work and we all have full-time jobs for the most part. And even if we don't, we have something that we do full-time, right? So, you know, please be supportive of each other and think of how we might be able to be an example for the whole country. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Co-Chair and Commissioner Sophia and Angie for all the work you do as well. And this meeting is adjourned